One of the most interesting things about the design of imps are the strange white markings that most of them seem to have, markings that aren't always there from birth, as we have seen childhood photos of Blitz depicting him without that trademark giant white scar that he has on his face. So I thought now would be a good time to talk about how Blitz might have gotten that scar and how it fits in with the timeline for the rest of his life, which is constantly changing and shifting with every episode released, and as we look back at the old episodes and learn new things. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, and if you don't click that subscribe button, then you won't be invited to my birthday party. Now, when the show first started, we had no reason to believe that the white spots on imps are anything other than birthmarks, similar to the dark spots humans can have in real life, which made sense considering that a lot of them look like freckles, for instance, such as we saw on Moxie. In episode 4 of Helluva, however, we saw a poster hanging on the IMP office wall that showed Blitz back during his days performing in a circus with his twin sister, Barbie Wire, and in that poster he was missing his trademark white spot. Some casual viewers may want to think of this as a simple animation error, but this poster was actually an updated version from the pilot, which included an additional sibling known as Tilla, and Blitz having his scar, so removing it had to be intentional. Additionally, episode 7 gave us some childhood photos of Blitz that confirmed he did not have this white spot on his face before, so how did it develop later in life? One fan on Twitter suggested that Imp's white spots can be the result of scarring from an injury, with VivziePop liking the tweet seeming to confirm this. We have also seen evidence of imps getting injured in one episode, and then later having a white spot there in future episodes. While some fans may also be able to find some instances of an injury not leading to a scar in a later episode, this seems to be a continuity issue as opposed to proof that an injury can't cause a white scar. For the more aesthetic scars that wouldn't occur from a random injury, such as heart-shaped marks and the like, it is reasonable to assume that these were done as sort of a tattoo, but instead of using ink, the imp would simply cut the desired shape into their body and let it heal to become a white marking. As far as Moxie's freckles go, this may be the case with them as well, and perhaps they were even an aesthetic choice done by his parents at a young age, though it is entirely reasonable that in addition to white spots being caused by injuries, they can occur naturally when an imp is born as well. When it comes to Blitz's giant white spot, it is so big and seems to appear so late in his life that it being caused by some injury is the most realistic answer, so let's take a look at his history to find out precisely when it may have happened. The earliest look we get into Blitz's life is through his childhood photos that we only recently saw on his phone in episode 7. Photos that thankfully were uploaded to Twitter by the original artist so we can see them more clearly. It was through these photos that we learned that Tilla, who was previously known to be one of the imp siblings back in the pilot, seems to have been reimagined to be Blitz and Barbie Wire's mother. A lot of little details, even outside of this poster, changed between the pilot and the main series, which is extremely common in TV. For instance, Millie originally had white roots in her hair, and other imps in the background we see in the pilot are shown to not be in line with what we know about imps today, not just hair color, but the pattern on horns that they have as well. In this photo, Blitz and his twin sister are holding up a card that seems to include the word mama being misspelled, something extremely common for Blitz that is well known to anyone who follows him on Instagram, where we can see he struggles with spelling even the simplest of words, something he likely had even more trouble with as a child. Blitz, his sister, and his mother all seem to have the same marking on their forehead here that is shaped vaguely like a demonic heart. As of now, we have no idea what this symbol means, but when Blitz scrolls to pictures of him with Vizirali as children, we can see that he has the symbol on his head as well. Some fans theorize that this is something of a family crest. However, Blitz has made sexual comments about RoboFizz in episode 2, and if he was in fact related to the real Vizirali, it's safe to assume that he wouldn't do that, no matter how much he may like to sexualize others. This led many fans to believe that it is instead the crest of some circus that they were all involved in, as we can see that Blitz and Vizirali have an interest in jesters and clowns, something likely inspired by Maman, who is the Prince of the Greed Ring. While we haven't seen him in person yet, we have seen his signature on a document that included a doodle of a jester at the end, and on Hell's currency we can see an evil-looking jester printed in the center, which seems pretty obvious to be Maman, since he is the Prince of Greed. Additionally, Blitz and Vizirali seem to be wearing t-shirts with Maman's name and references to him on them, indicating they really did see him as something to aspire to be like. As of now, we don't really know if any of these characters performed in the circus as children, but of course we do see that as adults, Blitz and Barbie Wire would go on to have a circus act together at some point, with him still not having any scar. It is interesting to note that Barbie herself seems to be missing that black heart on her head that we saw in her childhood photos, and instead a different yet vaguely shaped heart symbol is there with the white scar, in addition to a lot of other aesthetic white scars as well. It is my personal theory that, whatever that heart shape means, Barbie Wire wanted to distance herself from it, and purposely gave herself the scar, in addition to the ones on the rest of her body, in order to cover it up. We don't know precisely what happened next, but Fizzaroli and Barbie Wire both seem to go on to find success and leave Blitz behind. In episode 3, Verosika makes a joke that rehab is only for people who are no longer famous, and indicates that Barbie Wire is in rehab, meaning she did find some success, but in the present seems to no longer be popular. And Fizzaroli, of course, became the popular star known all across Hell, performing at Ozzy's club regularly, and with Ozzy creating a line of RoboFizz sex spots, one of which would be purchased by Maman to entertain children for whatever reason at Loo Loo Land. It is around this time that I believe Blitz would go on to work at Loo Loo Land as well, which seems to be roughly 10 years before the start of the show. We know that he was working there when Octavia would visit as a kid, and Octavia is currently a teenager, with the Instagram showing that she recently celebrated her 17th birthday. The Instagram is not 100% canon, and there are some claims that royal demons are long-living but not immortal, and perhaps having a slower growth rate because of that. For the time being, it seems safe to say, however, that Octavia is aging relatively closely at the same speed that a human child would have, putting the flashback of her and Blitz at Loo Loo Land as about 10 years before, plus or minus a few years. There's been a lot of debate about whether or not Blitz has the scar at this time. At first, I thought we could see the red part of his skin where the scar should be, but it was later pointed out to me that the red we see there is actually from the lighting in the room, as we see a similar edge of light on Blitz's horns. This explains why Blitz's paint seems to end right there, including the green outline surrounding the white paint. Because of that, in my last video, I said we can't say for sure whether or not he is the scar in this flashback or not, but one of the other commenters pointed out that if you zoom in, you can see that Blitz does not have any white spots on his neck in the flashback. But when we do cut to the present, where Blitz is in an identical pose to the flashback, we see the edge of his scar that extends down to his neck, just barely creeping around. Since we can't see that edge of the scar in the flashback, it is safe to assume he didn't have it while working at Loo Loo Land. Some may want to say that his positioning is just different enough that it could be hidden in the flashback, but the fact that these poses are so similar seems to say that Vivziepop was hoping that we would notice these details. Blitz had big dreams of working in showbiz, something he made clear to us even back in the pilot. But after his sister seemingly abandoned him to find more success on her own, and his childhood friend Fizzaroli went on to be famous in the Lust Ring, Blitz probably thought that working at Loo Loo Land was at least a place where he could perform his comedy and get children to laugh. But even there, it seems he didn't find any success, with RoboFizz indicating that the children never laughed at his jokes. Being unable to even compete with a robot knockoff of his childhood friend, Blitz likely became disillusioned with the entertainment industry and went to work for Verosika as her bodyguard at this point, likely using his industry connections like his sister to get the job. In the photo of Blitz with Verosika, we can see that he does have the white scar at this point, though we cannot say if he got it while working for her or beforehand. For me personally, I like to believe that he got the scar before working for her, and it was what inspired him to take on the job of being a bodyguard. At some point, he likely got into some sort of violent altercation, and though he walked away with the scar, he likely ultimately won whatever fight he was in, and walked away with the realization that he liked killing and was good at it. Working for Verosika likely got boring after a while, and based off of Stryker's comments in episode 5, as well as Blitz's reaction to them, Blitz likely didn't feel very appreciated for the work he was doing, and wanted to create some sort of business where he could use his violence for his own gain, instead of being something of a human shield for a celebrity like Verosika, even if she was clearly in love with him. This would eventually lead him to start IMP, but before then he would seemingly adopt Luna first. She was practically an adult when Blitz adopted her, according to Luna herself, and we can see she doesn't really look any different than she does now in the photo showing Blitz completing her adoption. You know at least 1 year has passed between her adoption and really starting IMP, as they are celebrating her adoptiversary in a flashback in the pilot. And with Stolas not having yet struck the arrangement with Blitz to use the grimoire as long as Stolas gets it back by the full moon each month, it couldn't have been more than a few months at most between Blitz starting the business and celebrating this adoptiversary. As of now, we don't know exactly how Blitz got close enough to Stolas to manage to seduce him before stealing the grimoire, but I like to think that his connections with other well-known demons like Verosika helped him get into Stolas' life. That would bring us up to the present in the show, which seems to be a little less than a year since IMP was first started by Blitz, as we saw in the recent episode that Moxie and Millie are only celebrating their 1-year anniversary at this time. It is always possible that they got married off-screen sometime after IMP started, but with what we know about the timeline, it would seem that they got married before IMP started and began working there very shortly after. That is everything we know so far about Blitz's history, as well as how he may have received his scar. It's a bit of an update on my previous video, but I hope you guys enjoyed the new information and ideas I was able to include. Let me know if I missed anything in a comment down below, and I'll see you next time.